Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Multifamily Rockstars. So as you guys know, this is where we interview people that are just flat out crushing it in this business. And we show you guys the inside scoop as to how multifamily investors are creating massive success in their businesses and also in their lives. And as always, I've got my co-host, who's the director of our massive action team, Mark Nagy, on the call. Mark, what's up, brother?
Well, we had our boot camp a few weeks ago, and so I've just been slammed with close to 200 people that have been applying for the Warrior program. And so, I've been slammed with that, but excited to see a friendly face here and do another interview here to put out for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So today we've got Adam Dailey on for our interview, and he's a unique individual, and I'm going to have you explain his background, but I'll say a few things. I mean, he's a five-time All-American runner. And he actually was, how do I want to say this, was involved in the Olympics. You know what? I'm stealing his thunder. I'm just going to let him explain it because I'm just going to screw it up anyway. So, Adam, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so
stoked to be here.
You've got such a cool bio. You've done so many things. Normally I tell people, blow through it quickly, on this bio thing, but I want you to, just touch on some of the things you've done because they're very unique and interesting. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Like you mentioned, I was a runner in college. I went to kind of the best school there was at the time for track and field, and that was University of Arkansas, and competed in the Olympic trials after that. And through that opportunity, got access to a bunch of tickets. And that was kind of 3 years or so later after I'd retired from running, and I was working. I didn't really like what I was doing, but I was very entrepreneurial. And so I bought a bunch of tickets, and I ended up moving to Athens, Greece, and setting up a company that brought athletes' families and sponsors and whatnot to the Olympic Games. And we did that, made some money in Greece. And then we said, well, we don't really have anything next. So we went to Italy and did the same thing for the Winter Olympics. And that whole thing kind of turned into a bigger business that then ended up kind of crashing and burning from 2012 to 2014. And I ended up at that point in 2014, taking a year off with my family. And we went and traveled around the world with four kids, 6 and under. And all along the way was kind of starting, was doing real estate stuff, smaller deals here and there, kind of acquiring single family. We did an office conversion in 2012, 2014 that did actually take that we turned into a very profitable Airbnb. So that's where I kind of got a taste of it. And through my events business, I'd always I'd spend a ton of money buying hotel blocks. And I was always like, man, I want to be the guy who owns the hotel. I mean, I wrote a check for $1 million in Vancouver, 2010 to one hotel. And I was like, wow, what an amazing opportunity to have that opportunity to sell out every night. Cause I guess I'm a salesperson kind of at heart. And so the opportunity to sell out over and over was always attractive. So eventually I started getting more into the hotels, Airbnbs, hostels, that type of thing here in San Diego, California.
Wow. Well, I know, you wrote a book as well, How to Run Away from Home and Take Your Family with You. That sabbatical sounds really cool. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. And you've been featured in the Wall Street Journal and USA Today, New York Times. Very, very cool. You've done a lot. And so I know you've been a warrior for about a year, and you've got an RV park, you've got a fourplex, you've got a 55-unit hotel since then. Very, very cool. And you need to turn in your warrior wind sheet so we can get you your sword as well. Yeah. By the way, guys. Oh, you did? Okay.
No, I do. I need to do that.
Oh, you do? Got it. Okay.
Mounted.
Yeah, whenever one of our warriors gets their first deal as a warrior, they get this really cool sword that we send them. And it's not just this cheap thing. It's really cool. So, we'll have to make sure that happens. But before we get into the real estate stuff, tell me a little bit about how you go travel for a year with 4 kids. I'm just curious. This is just to satisfy my own ed.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we get this question a lot. Like I kind of mentioned, I got my butt kicked pretty bad in the London Olympics and kind of took a couple of years to lick my wounds, I guess. And I was rebounding the business. And at the time I was making good money, but I was spending everything I earned. And I was like, this is not the life I want. And if you wrote me a check for $15,000 or whatever I was making at the time every month, what would, like, the hypothesis was like, what would you do? And I'm like, not this, so I was like, I could travel the world for $15,000 a month. And so that was kind of the idea I had in my head. And we just didn't have, my family didn't have somewhere we needed to be, where kids were young. And there's always these reasons why I could have talked myself out of it. My kids won't remember, or, or my net worth will literally probably go down as a result of this. I'll probably have less money than I at the end of the trip than when I started. But I just needed it. And I knew I needed time to think and be with my family. And I was like, I'll have a better time, looking out at the ocean in Santorini than I will, stressing out about my mortgage payment here at home. That was the idea. It was hard, but by the end, after a year, my kids were used to that. When we showed them where we were going to live after a year, they were like, "Oh, we don't get it. There's no furniture here," and they didn't understand the concept of like unpacking their bags and actually settling.
So you went to Greece, you went to Santorini, you went to all over then. Wow. In fact, it's really funny because I'm booking a cruise to go back there again with my brothers. That's such a cool place. Well, listen, we'll go over to real estate now. People are like, okay, come on, let's talk real estate. I'm here to learn about real estate.
Yeah.
So, well, I have this question, why'd you join the Warrior program? Because, I noticed that you haven't really done quote unquote multifamily. You did a fourplex, but what was your thought process for joining? I'd just be curious to know the answer to that question.
I mean, I've heard you talk a lot about masterminds, and I'm a big believer in masterminds in general. Mm-hmm. And I've been very involved in entrepreneur organization, which is specifically for business owners over the years. But what I found I was getting out of that organization was very general and strategic, and I needed some more kind of tactical. I was going to my peer group and saying, I need help on how to structure this deal. And I wasn't getting that from kind of my network. And so I was reaching out, and I'd been listening to your podcast before that. So I was curious and ultimately wanted to, sharpen the sword, as you would say, and learn more of a new skill set and more, understand different asset classes. And I was also very interested in syndicating, and I knew I could get that from you and the rest of the Warrior crew.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, you mentioned Entrepreneurs Organization. I just want to give them a shout out because that is a really cool group. I've never joined it. I've just heard nothing but good things about it. And, it's the only reason I hadn't joined it was because it's in Tampa, and that's an hour away. I'm just too lazy to drive up there. They don't have one here in Sarasota, but that's awesome. And I would recommend it to anybody if you've got one in your local area. It's a pretty cool group to belong to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to get into those deals. A lot of unique things, right? California, I heard RV parks, hotels, not a lot of stuff that we talk about on this often. What's been your strategy about where you're doing deals, the types of deals, and then what do you do with them afterwards when you do buy them?
I mean, everything I'm doing, I'm looking, first of all, value add opportunities, right? I don't want something that someone else has fixed up and made pretty. And ultimately, I'm looking for another way to make more revenue than you might see in the deal, right? So it's like, I'm looking like, oh, what do I see that no one else sees? If I have a property around the corner that I've done Airbnb with, I know the market, I know that it can do, 40% more than anyone else knows. And I know, on a mixed use deal, I know that the residential guys are scared of the retail down below, whereas the retail guys don't want to touch the multifamily stuff upstairs. So just different, I would say, ways of looking at revenue. And can I get a bump on revenue somehow from an opportunity that a bunch of other people aren't seeing? And Southern California is super competitive. So that's also why I've kind of got this niche of, hospitality with Airbnbs and hostels and hotels, because it's frankly a little less competitive. It's still super competitive, but it's just a few less guys going after these deals.
So you like to stay close to home. I mean, you'll want to be able to kick it and touch it and all that stuff. And
yeah,
I used to be like that. I the thought of owning property in other states was, I really pushed against my need to have control. And, now we've got assets in 7 states, but, I'm going to encourage you to consider that honestly, because I think you could scale more and you are in a very competitive, highly regulated environment
Yes.
as well. So that hotel, did you syndicate that one, or how'd you take that one down?
We did. Yeah, we
Okay.
syndicated it. So we
Very
syndicated,
nice.
we got a construction budget with it. And, part of the reason, like you mentioned, that I did join Warriors also is to expand the way I'm looking at things when you talked about going to new areas. And I
Right.
saw that in the beginning is I don't, it's not a badge of honor that I'm only doing deals in San Diego. I'm when I go to Warrior events, I'm almost embarrassed by it, but I want to learn more about that, and
Sure.
I have learned a lot from the Warrior group about these other markets.
Sure. And that's the, and it is a big shift because, especially for those of you in the single family space, you've got some duplexes or whatever, and it's all in your backyard. And then the thought of buying something that you don't live near, I really struggled with it. I'm going to tell you, I personally really struggled with it. And, the key is obviously to find a good third-party management solution to handle your asset. But, yeah. So just another quick question about the hotel. Is it you operating it just like a hotel, or are you Airbnb and do some other things there to boost the income? Just curious.
So when we bought the asset, it was what's called a single resident occupancy. So there are people renting it kind of month by month for about $1,000 for like a small hotel room with bathrooms. And not all the rooms have their own bathrooms even.
Wow.
And so what we saw an opportunity to do is create more of a boutique hotel. So we're kind of doing. I've talked to a few Warriors that were like, oh, we're buying a hotel and turning it into multifamily. We're kind of turning a multifamily into a hotel. But we also, that's another thing, Mark had asked what I'm looking for in terms of deals. I'm looking for things that are there's not only one path to success, right? Like, so for me, I'm looking at these rooms, and when I'm building them, I'm going, this is the vision to do a boutique hotel or whatever. But I also want to keep in mind, like, well, if people have to stay month to month, if there's another COVID, if there's some situation that forces me into a corner, I want to be able to, whether, do a master lease, or I want to be able to run a hotel or run it by monthly or whatever. Right. I want options. Right. And so when I'm looking at any deal, I want to know, look, I don't want only one way out to success. Right.
Yeah, no, that's very prudent, actually. And, I know somebody super successful in the Airbnb space. I met him at a mastermind, actually. And he told me he won't buy one unless he's got an alternative exit plan, like long-term lease renting or whatever. So it's really prudent. And I just want to mention one other quick thing. The most successful people in definitely in the multifamily business are the best ones at solving problems or being creative being creative in how they, approach something, which you are absolutely a poster child for that. So, and of course you're not, even though you're not technically multifamily right now, that mindset is some of the most successful Warriors I know, or people I know, are the ones that adopt that mindset. So, yeah, good job.
Yeah. Well, how did those things change for you? Like, what did your progress look like before you became a Warrior? And then how did that change, once you joined the team and got a mentor and worked with us?
I think you guys have mentioned this, I think, before in the podcast. Anytime you can be the dumbest guy in the room, I think it serves you well. Right. And so for me, it's learning from others, hearing what others are talking about, seeing kind of what's down the pipeline in terms of how the overall market looks, but also just for me, like I said, I wanted a bunch of tactical stuff too, of like, wait, how do I don't have an operating agreement for a single entity, there are just little things that I'm also benefiting from being part of the group as well, that are, again, super tactical that I just wasn't able to do beforehand.
Sure. So you've got 4 kids.
I have 5 now. I had
5. Okay.
But I'm done. But it's over. It's over.
Okay. So talk about that a little bit, because I know that people will listen to this show and they're like, man, how do I do this with my full-time job, with my kids, with my family? So how do you manage that without sacrificing, quality time with what matters most?
There's a couple ways to answer it. One is that it's hard to balance, right? That's the reality, is it's hard to balance these things. Mm-hmm. Another is the fact that I got into real estate specifically to create freedom, right? Mm-hmm. To create flexibility, so I can do what I want. So I can do an interview with you and not have to ask my boss, if I can take off and do an interview. And so, it's given me the opportunity to spend more time with them, to have flexibility. And it's also like, once you kind of figure out how good real estate is, I'm like, I want to teach my kids this. I want them, I bring them to the job sites. I bring them and explain to them, like, we just refinance this, and I write it all on a piece of paper, and like, we own it. We don't have any cash in the deal. We still own it, and I want them to have that education, because I feel like it took me the better part of my adult life to really understand how good of an asset class real estate is.
Yeah. No question. By the way, we talked about the Warrior program. If you are listening and you would like to apply, text the word crush to 72345. And let's see if we can help you crush it in this business. We just had like Mark said, we just had our Warrior event. We do a couple of Warrior events a year. So because we've discovered that our most successful Warriors are the ones that are the most connected in the group by far. And so we started doing things to help facilitate those connections. And one of them is these events. So we just had, 280 people here in Sarasota just last weekend. And it was a lot of fun. But again, if you want to inquire into that and apply, there's an application process. We don't take everybody, but just text crush to 72345. So let me ask you this, in this very unique path of yours, background of yours, were there any like aha moments where you're like, okay, epiphanies, like you had an epiphany at any point more? I mean, I'm sure you had tons of them, but related to real estate specifically. Anything come to mind with that question? I know I didn't prepare you for these, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, a few years ago, once I started understanding the numbers and then started paying the taxes, which weren't real taxes, I was like, right. Oh my God, why wasn't I doing this earlier? I think a moment, for me, one of my business partners was a kind of a role model for me, and he was one guy and had, a half-time bookkeeper and no employees. And he had, kind of a $25-30 million portfolio, or maybe even close to that in net worth. And I kind of emulated him and partnered with him on a project, and he ended up passing away during the middle of the project. Wow. And that it shook me up for a long time, but I also eventually kind of, 6 months, 9 months later, used that to kind of inspire me of like, oh, what would he want me doing? Would he be, feeling sorry for himself at this point? And then I also was like, look, that's the life. I want the life that he was creating for himself, or that he had created for himself. So to me, it's like we've talked about, it's like the idea of flexibility, the idea of freedom, the idea to kind of to control your own destiny, I think.
So that was the big epiphanies when you saw that. Yeah. Love it.
So I got a two-part question for you. First part related around the same topic, right? First of all, the market, right? It's a big topic, hot topic, where everything's going, interest rates going up, market going down, et cetera. And I usually get one of two people when I talk to them. Either number one, it's like, hey, I'm super excited because the market's going down, there's opportunity. And then I get the other people that are saying, well, I just want to wait and see a little bit and see where the market goes, and then I'll take action. So firstly, what are your thoughts on the market, where it's going right now? How do you feel about it? And then secondly, what would you tell those people that are maybe saying, I kind of just want to sit back and wait before I do anything?
I don't think we're at the bottom right now. I don't know if it's going to get as bad as like Rod thinks it's going to get, but I think it's not the bottom. I don't know if there's going to be like a ton of pain on a grand scale, because everyone's had the past couple of years to kind of refi, to kind of optimize their own portfolio. So it's hard for me to envision like systemic like chaos, in terms of the market crashing. But we also have so many crazy things going on that we've never dealt with at the same time that it's unpredictable. What I'm kind of surprised at is I'm seeing a lot of my friends and kind of colleagues and whatnot who have $500,000, $600,000, $800,000 sitting in the bank, and they're terrified to deploy it. And that kind of makes you go aha on a couple levels. Of one, you're like talking about like we're trying to stimulate the market by raising interest points, and all you're doing is kind of terrifying people in a lot of ways with the uncertainty. And on kind of the second part of the question, a deal's a deal, like, right? I mean, it's like if you paid $10 million today and it goes down to 9, well, if it penciled out at 10, hopefully you've done that one and moved on to the next one. So I think it's like, you can't look at it with rose-colored glasses, but you also can't, think that the sky is falling, and you have to underwrite it and look and make sure it pencils out. And for me, I'm looking at the opportunity being more kind of owner finance deals, more off-market deals, more, and kind of the same thing, looking for these weird distressed assets that I know fundamentally, a lot of the sellers don't like owning. So it's like feeling that pain. And then especially here in Southern California, they also have this pride of like, well, I sold, my neighbor got $10 million. So I need to get $10 million. And it's like you said, if the 10 million pencils out and you can get it for 10 million, but zero interest for 5 years and you overpay, but hey, the numbers are the numbers. And so I think it's going to be a matter of like being creative and looking, but also not being too creative where you're lying to yourself about the numbers, right?
By the way, guys, he just gave you a hell of a solution, a creative solution to a deal. Guy wants 10 million, fine, but no interest payments, no interest on the payment. So that was that's the way his brain works, which is very impressive to see that. So back to Mark's question about the economy. Now we're having this conversation on election day. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But I really believe that there's going to be a big shift politically, and I don't care what camp you're in, but there's no question that there's a huge left influence on the media. And so I actually believe that things are going to start to appear really bad because they're going to want to make the Republicans look bad. So, again, I don't care what camp you're in, it doesn't matter. But the point is, I think perception is reality. And I do believe the perception is going to get ugly because they're going to do that. Again, I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, but let me read a headline that I just got from someone on my team. This was in Bloomberg. 37% of small businesses, which employ 50% of Americans, couldn't pay their rent in October or all their rent in October. So that's a pretty staggering statistic. But what's interesting though is I used to have a litigation support company helping people in foreclosure, and I sold that business a few years ago. And I talked to the guy that bought it today, and I said, "What's going on with the foreclosures?" And he said, "Well, the huge rush of them, a ton of them, because they had the moratorium and they canceled the moratorium. But he did say that a lot of them are able to sell, but he doesn't think that that's going to last forever because with interest rates, prices are dropping very, very quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, and then, last time I looked, 20 million families were behind on the utility bills. Again, I'm not trying to scare you listening. I'm trying to let you know, I believe opportunity is coming. Adam and Mark here maybe don't, but I do. I think we're going to see some great deals where there's no way we're at the bottom. I'm just going to tell you that right now. We're not even, I don't even think we see the bottom yet. So we'll see. You listen to people like Kiyosaki that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He's been talking about it forever, but he thinks it's going to be really bad. And, Elon Musk thinks it's going to be.
He's gone off the deep end. He's talking depression. What he's saying.
No, I know.
I'm not going to go that far. Yeah.
Well, who knows? But it's
correction, I think for sure.
I think, but again, it's opportunity. Okay. So that's the point I want to make. Since you brought it up, I had to interject. I know this is your interview, Adam. I'm sorry I stole so much of your time.
I agree with you.
Okay. All right. But anyway, so, what's the driver now? Is it family? What's the why? What makes you jump out of bed? Because you obviously love what you're doing. What is it that's driving you right now?
Like you said, it's fun.
Right.
But I think my why, I think the kind of knee-jerk reaction that everyone says is their family, and that's true. But I think for me, it's almost a layer below or above that of freedom and flexibility. Mm-hmm. And for me, I will choose 9 times out of 10 that freedom will allow me more time with my kids. But that freedom also might be, hey, a buddy's in town and I want to go get a beer at 4 in the afternoon on a Thursday, and I want the freedom to make that choice as well. So for me, it's the choice is generally going to be family, but it's really about doing whatever I want to do. I've never been a great employee, and I've always just kind of controlled my own destiny, and it's not always worked out for me, sure. but at least I had the control, and I want the control and I want the flexibility.
Interesting, which is why you haven't gone out of California yet. What you just said. I hear you, brother. I got to tell you, my hat's off to you, man, because, to leave for a year. I wish I had the cojones just to go do that. Take my wife and say, screw it, and go have fun. And you're inspiring. And I know you're inspiring other people to consider it. But, we have a lot of listeners, and I'll just leave with this question. This can be the last one or two. But, we got a lot of listeners that know they want more, that are in the quasi rat race, or they may have a job, but they don't love it. They don't freaking love it. And, what might you say, words of wisdom might you share with someone that hasn't pulled the trigger, hasn't taken action yet on their dreams, honestly?
I mean, it's nothing you guys haven't said on this podcast before. It's action, it's execution. Yeah. It's there's so much fear of doing. I've talked to so many people who are podcast experts, right? They know how to do it. They know how to underwrite it, but they won't do it. And they're quoting things in their head from 2 years ago of like, oh, I should have done it 2 years ago. Now it's too late. And so I think it's ultimately like you've said many times, it's just doing it. It's getting off the couch, doing a deal, and it doesn't have to win. Like you'll learn just as much from doing a crappy deal as you will a good deal, and you'll make relationships and you'll be able to use those learnings to do more. So it's really, to me, it's just, it's taking action no matter what, and not just being in your head, not just listening to more books or podcasts or reading more. It's making offers. It's doing real underwriting. It's networking with brokers, and ultimately getting deals under contract. And and you'll never learn as much as you will from actually doing it.
Agreed. And recognizing if Rod's right, it could be the greatest transfer of wealth in history. And even if I'm wrong, everything's going on sale. Regardless, everything's going on sale. So there is going to be opportunity, but you got to get up to speed as fast as possible. I think my next boot camp's in January. You can still come for $100. If it's over 100, just DM me. I'll let you come for $97. But learn, pick a vehicle. Pick a vehicle right now. If it's going to be multifamily, for God's sakes, come to my boot camp. I don't sell anything there. And come spend 2 days with me and learn that business. But whatever it is, learn it now, because if we're in the thick of it, it's going to be too late. You need to get up to speed. You need to build the relationships, like Adam just said, with brokers, with potential investors, and learn how to underwrite and all that stuff. And that's going to take some time. So don't freaking wait. Anyway, Adam, I appreciate you being on the show, brother. It's great to see you.
For sure.
And
I have one question for you, Rob.
Yeah.
When you say the biggest transfer of wealth, I've heard you say that a few times, and I think it's an interesting idea. Where do you think the transfer is going from?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of deals that go south, and people can capitalize on those deals. I just had a deal in San Antonio we were looking at, and the guy had bridge debt that was coming due within the year, and his reserve payments to the lender went from $8,000 a month to $80,000 a month. Okay. I mean, that's debilitating. I've got, other people that have adjustable rate debt that are getting killed because listen, when you got a multi-million-dollar asset and your interest rate goes up 1%, it's a big deal, let alone maybe you got a rate cap of 2%. 2% is a huge deal. And so, these people there's a lot of people that are struggling. And again, there's going to be opportunity to pick up stuff at cents on the dollar. I really believe that. And so, that's what I'm talking about. That's the transfer from someone that, had a deal that was too skinny, was too aggressive. Talked previously about bridge debt being very dangerous. And it was probably the most widely used debt vehicle this last year. And it's very onerous debt. It's short-term adjustable rate. You don't meet your business plan, they can default you. I mean, it's scary debt, and a lot of people with it. So I think, it may not be as bad as I think it's going to be, but there's still going to be some pain, and there's going to be some opportunity with that pain. So that's what I was talking about. So anyway, it's good to see you, brother. Mark, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam.
Take care, guys.
Thank you for the opportunity. Cheers.
You bet. See you.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our Warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text the word crush to 72345 and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. Again, to apply, text crush to 72345.